What's up? Welcome in. Hoge and Jahns back with you, rolling in to week number 9 already. The weeks keep flying by. It is game number 8 for the Chicago Bears in Arizona. There will be a Chicago invasion of Lou Malnati's and Portillo. I heard
there's a Portillo's already out there. I'm sure there's a Lou.
there's a million Portillo. No, but my understanding from the Lumal sources that I have, and I have many, is that a new location opened up in Surprise, Arizona, just last week, and they set a record for most revenue in one day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now I enjoy my Lou Malnati's. I'm one of those Chicagoans who actually eat deep dish. Believe it or not, Chicagoans actually do eat deep dish, not just their tavern style pizza.
Yeah, that's been a weird trend that's happened where we flipped the complete other way, where now we're like denying that deep dish is a thing. Like, that's just settled down. They're both Chicago pizza.
We eat it. It's good pizza. But I'm not going to eat it out there. Usually my go-to spot, like it has been like since I've covered hockey, like late games, maybe leaving this game Sunday, I'll stop at In-N-Out Burger.
Mm-hmm.
Pull up. It's a good burger. I've always liked it. It's different than the chains around here, so I'm looking forward to that.
I think they have Whataburger there too.
Whataburger's okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually need a good restaurant recommendation for tonight. Still working on that. We'll figure it out. I'm always excited to go to Arizona. You and I are like typical Chicagoans, where it's rare to have a year where we don't touch down at Phoenix at some point, whether it's for work or
Vacation.
pleasure or whatever. And there will be plenty of Bears fans invading the desert this weekend. Should be fun. We're gonna have Doug Haller from The Athletic join us here shortly. Talk about the Cardinals. Talk a little bit about that, the stadium atmosphere, what it should all be like. Should be a lot of fun. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns for all the coverage. Well, because you didn't go to London, this is the first time we're going to be at the same venue all season.
You might even see me at a tailgate run by your colleagues.
Wow.
You got me with tacos. When you said there was tacos, it's hard to turn down tacos.
See, and that like, do I go 3 straight days at tacos? I just feel like that's very Arizona, because I was we're gonna be at Salt on Sunday, pre and post game. If anybody wants to come out, I think the actual pregame tailgate tickets are truefantravel.com, which are still available. Post game, I think you can just show up. There's a Badger bar in Scottsdale that I want to go to tomorrow night to watch the Wisconsin-Iowa game. It is also a taco place. And then I think you and I have been to the taco place by the Biltmore. I was thinking about going there tonight, but then I'm like, that's 3 straight days of tacos. But that's one of my favorite places too.
I don't think there's such a thing as too many tacos.
Okay. All right. Well, let's do it then. There's definitely no such thing as too many margaritas, which will come with all those tacos.
I beg to differ on that, but
HoganJahns.com for all the merch, and you can read Johnsy in The Athletic, theathletic.com/HoganJahns. It's also where you can read Doug Haller, who we'll talk to in a second here. Before we get to that, it's a weird week, huh?
I wanted to ask you this. Like, you were at House Hall Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
What did you make of the vibe? Because I was there Wednesday, I was there Thursday. I'm going back there today. What did you make of the vibe in the locker room, talking to the assistant coaches? Where do you think the Bears are at?
So, yeah, I had heard Wednesday, and I wasn't there Wednesday, that it was like a really quiet locker room. I don't know how much that had to do with it was a weird day where they didn't really practice. Yesterday seemed more normal to me. But I wouldn't say it was like crazy upbeat or giddy either. Like, I sensed some tension, but that's also kind of normal for this time of year. Like, things are.
It's the middle of the season. You just had an ugly, embarrassing loss on national television.
Plus, I've always said this, like, in a lot of ways, the years in which you're right around 500 are the most interesting, the most stressful, the biggest mood swings. You know what I mean? Like, just because you feel like you're good enough. Like you feel like you're can be a playoff team, but then, something goes wrong. And that's not just for the Bears. I think that applies for every NFL franchise. Like when you're hovering around 500 in the NFL, those are stressful times for everybody involved. Players feel like they should be better, coaches feel like they should be better. Then you got to deal with the reality that you're not. Um, and I if I had to predict right now, I'd say that's kind of how the season's going to go, especially when you look at the schedule coming up.
As John Fox would say, there's a lot of crisis,
Yeah.
and then there's a lot of carnivals in the NFL, and that's a good point because
Well,
that kind of swings back and forth if you're hovering around 500.
well, and we've seen that swing here in the last 3 weeks. I mean, London was as big of a regular season celebration as I can remember. I mean, and part of that was being there. It had like you covered the game in London last time. Like it has a different vibe. It has more of like a Super Bowl vibe to it than a regular season game. And then the Bears played so well and won that game so convincingly. And all those fans that went out there were rewarded. And then you go into a bye week and you're feeling all those good vibes, and then you come out so flat against Washington. And then it's like, oh, we're still going to somehow steal this game. And then the worst possible thing happens. So I don't know how you can have a bigger swing in just a few weeks. But how they bounce back in the desert this weekend is going to be very telling. I put that in my newsletter this morning that went out to CHGO diehards. Like I feel like we're going to get a better vibe for how resilient this team is. And honestly, we'll probably learn more about the coaching staff. Like the more weeks that go by that there's so much scrutiny on the coaching, it's just that starts to pile up a little bit.
I'm kind of. This doesn't reach a point though where you're just done learning about the coaching staff, where they just are what they are, and it is what it is. At least with Matt Eberflus, we have 2.5 seasons now. Maybe with Shane Waldron and Caleb Williams, there's more to learn because they're still kind of developing together. Caleb Williams is still developing and learning, but
here's where I'll push back on you a little bit on that, because it's 2.5 years, and quite frankly, for coaches in the NFL, that is basically an eternity these days. I do think the circumstances of this situation do matter. Like, I don't know how much, like people throwing out his road record right now. I get that it sucks. What is it, 3-17? Like, are we really holding 2021 against them?
Or this is where I agree with you. Like, I think we're on the same page with this. Yes, that first season, the complete teardown, like you have to consider what that year was. You have to acknowledge that was them completely ridding themselves of like the Pace regime.
Yeah. And so I didn't really feel like we would really know how good of a head coach Matt Eberflus was until this year. Like when they're actually good enough to compete. And so now we're 7 games in. There's a lot of questions. I get it, but I don't know if that, I guess me pushing back on you a little bit is I still don't know if this is enough of a accurate sample size. We should at least give him the rest of the season to see if improvements can be made, because coaches can't improve. We saw Shane Waldron improve. We saw him fix a lot of things. And then Sunday happened.
Now he's got new things to fix.
Yeah. And honestly,
it's the life of an OC, though.
It is. And I honestly don't think Shane had that bad of a game. He had one horrible call. I don't think the rest of that game was that bad, to be honest with you. So, again, I think this goes back to the circumstances of the last couple of weeks. Everything looks so great coming out of London and so bad coming out of DC. Let's at least wait and see how it looks Sunday in Arizona.
I talked to Kerry Joseph, the Bears quarterbacks coach, yesterday, and I just came away like we all forget this point, and Kerry drove it home a couple times. We have a 22-year-old rookie quarterback. It's not always going to be perfect. It's not supposed to be perfect. He's learning. Like you can forgive him for being a little, emotional and fired up for his homecoming in Washington, or dealing with different things that defenses show and continue to change against him. there's a lot on his plate. It's not an easy position. It's not supposed to be easy every single game, but the signs are there. The glimpses are there. The calmness came back for him in the fourth quarter. That was a message from Kerry Joseph, and I think we saw him play well. I think you brought it up on our last podcast, but I got to keep that context in mind myself. The Bears have a 22-year-old rookie quarterback with a lot on his plate. It's not always going to be pretty.
And that's a good point to bring up too, that all those positive conversations we had going into the draft and after the draft about how Caleb was being drafted to a team that doesn't suck. Usually the number 1 overall pick goes to a team that sucks. That should help him. And I do think it does help him. However, it also creates an interesting dynamic because I feel like most of these situations these rookie quarterbacks go into, especially the highly drafted ones, it's like, okay, we got a year of patience here. We know he's young. We know he's a rookie. We're going to have to put up with some things here. The Bears are in this situation where it's like, we can actually make the playoffs. So I think there's this back and forth internally, even in that building of, man, he's really good. We have our guy. And also, oh crap, he's 22 years old and he's a rookie. And sometimes he stands there at the line of scrimmage and makes a check or a protection that he doesn't really understand what the hell he's doing.
And it's wrong. It's okay.
Yeah.
Veteran quarterbacks make mistakes doing that. That's what defenses are supposed to do.
Yeah, but it is an interesting dynamic they have going on. All right. Well, let's talk more about the dynamic that the Arizona Cardinals have going on with their guy who's in year 6 in Kyler Murray. And still is carrying a lot of questions around, but is actually playing pretty decent football right now, it seems like. So to learn more about this week's opponent, the Arizona Cardinals, we're going to bring in our guy, Doug Haller, who covers Cardinals and a lot of other things for The Athletic down there in the desert. All right, let's bring in Doug Haller, who covers all things Arizona, including the Cardinals. You can follow him on Twitter at Doug Haller. Does a great job for The Athletic, a senior writer there. All right, Doug, this game Sunday seems to be, it's one of the closer spreads of the week. I think probably both teams feel like it's a game not only they can win, but probably should win. I always like these matchups, especially in the middle of the season. And obviously a little bit more drama going on with the Bears this week than the Cardinals. Let's just start with this. The Cardinals the last, last 4 weeks, 3-1. Seems like they've had a pretty good run here. How do you view what they've been able to accomplish in the last 4 weeks in terms of, I don't know, I guess legitimacy, that they're taking a step here as a franchise?
Yeah, I've written the Cardinals off a couple of times this year already, and they've proven me wrong. They've looked at times really, really bad as we've seen them over 2 years under Jonathan Gannon. I still don't know how good they are, but 4-4 in a division that doesn't appear to be very good get you in first place. And they won back-to-back games. So if you're listening to sports talk radio right now, it would seem like the Cardinals won the Super Bowl because they have not won back-to-back games since 2021. So there's some confidence there. It's a very resilient football team. But it's still a very flawed football team. And, I'm not ready to, announce them as a contender or anything like that. But I will give them credit. They've found a way to stick around. They've had a lot of injuries, as most teams had. And they just keep seeming to find a way to win. And I guess that's all you can ask for just about any team at this point of the season.
Matt Eberflus described Jonathan Gannon this week as an outstanding coach. Obviously, they have their connections dating back to their days with the Colts. What's the vibe like, excuse me, like with Gannon, I guess, heading into this year? Was there much optimism with this pairing with Kyler Murray? Maybe take us through that storyline if you can.
Yeah, you have to go back to, before he and general manager Monty Ossenfort got there. It was kind of a train wreck under Cliff Kingsbury's final years. There's a lot of off-field issues. There were reports the Athletic obviously did one about everything that had gone on, in the organization, just from a cultural standpoint and, what was going on in the office. That it was a bad time. And the main thing that Jonathan Gannon has done is just kind of, and I hate to say culture because it's such a cliche, but he has changed it, and they've just kind of set that foundation, he and his coaching staff, of what will be tolerated and what will not. I mean, and we went back to the basic stuff. I mean, the first week of camp last year, players were talking about, yeah, if we're late to meetings, we're going to get fined. It's like, well, yeah, of course you should get fined. But that was kind of the starting point. And I think it just kind of goes to the resilience of what they've shown this year is they do believe in him. There is a collective belief in the locker room that if they keep doing every week, just, go no matter what happened. That Green Bay loss was ugly. And yet, they bounced back pretty well from that. And it's just their collective belief in the locker room that, if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to get better. And that's kind of what happened. So there's a lot of respect there, particularly from Kyler Murray. He was a guy that under Cliff Kingsbury, you could see that relationship starting to tear a little bit in those final years, but he really respects him, and I think that's shown up on the field.
Can we stay with Cliff Kingsbury for a little bit here, because obviously he's fresh in our Bears listeners' minds because of the Hail Mary. The Bears could have hired him as their offensive coordinator. His offense looks really good right now with Jaden Daniels. Like, why did things eventually fizzle out in Arizona with Cliff Kingsbury? And then, I'm curious, what do you make of the instant success that he's having with Jaden Daniels? Do you think it has staying power?
Well, I mean, it's hard to argue that it doesn't from what we've seen. I think with Arizona, Cliff came in, fired from Texas Tech, where, he had not posted a winning record there, had Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback and really didn't do much with him. And then, so he was a questionable hire at first. He was kind of, labeled this offensive genius. And yet outside of a stretch in 2021, when they started so well, the first half of the season, it just didn't work out. I mean, it just wasn't reflected on the field. It wasn't all his fault. I mean, the Cardinals did not have a lot of, offensive weapons, but there just seemed to be, as it went on, a disconnect between him and Kyler Murray. Kyler was his pretty much handpicked number one pick of the draft. So everyone was expecting more just with that relationship, and it just didn't work out. And then I think the main complaint about Cliff during that time is that he just wasn't, a head coach. I mean, his nickname around here was kind of Coach Bro. He didn't hold guys accountable as he should. And you know how it is. If there's not a level of accountability in an NFL locker room, guys are going to, take some liberties with that. And that's kind of what happened. Some of the things that happened, I mean, their draft record during those years was not great at all. So some of those things were out of his control, but I think there was just the general lack of accountability that ultimately kind of sealed his fate in Arizona.
So is Kyler Murray settled in here? I mean, we're 2 years removed from the whole film study thing, and it seems like he's bounced back. Injuries too, obviously big ones. I mean, has he settled in? Does he look like he's the guy that's going to be there for a long time?
Yeah, I kid you not. You could turn on talk radio any time during the week, Monday through Friday, and if you just sit there for 15 minutes, that question's going to come up. Is Kyler Murray the guy? Can he lead the Cardinals to, a Super Bowl, an NFC championship, a Super Bowl? Which is strange because I think in year 6, if you're still asking that question, that's probably the answer. The injury set him back. The clause in the study clause in his contract, for so many years, I don't want to say so many, but for up until the last 2, he didn't feel comfortable as the face of the franchise. Wasn't great with the media. Didn't want to really do much media. And, you can't be a quarterback. You can't be a face of the franchise and get away with that. He's done over the last probably 18 months since he's come back from the injury. He's been a different guy. Does he look like the quarterback of the franchise quarterback that everyone expected of a number 1 draft pick? The answer is sometimes he does. Right now, last week he certainly did. Week 2 against the Rams, he certainly did. I will say this is the most comfortable I've seen Kyler Murray with doing what he's asked to do. He seems to have great command of what Drew Petzing wants in the offense. He's making great decisions. He does not get sped up at all. And, when things, he's found a way to buy his time in the pocket, keeping his head up, going through his progressions. And when things break down, he's as dangerous as anybody in the NFL. So is he that guy? I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't know if I would say he's a top 8 quarterback in the league, but this is as comfortable as I've seen him look.
What type of impact is Marvin Harrison Jr. maybe having on, Kyler Murray in the offense in general?
Yeah, that's been an interesting topic. Preseason, Marvin is about as polished as a receiver as you're going to find, especially for his age. Just looks the part. How he runs his routes, how he even walks onto the practice field. He just looks like a star in this league. You talk to people in the locker room during OTAs, training camp, they all said, this kid's going to be instant impact. He's going to be a number 1 receiver this year. And then the Cardinals, the preseason came, they pretty much held him out because, he was that important to the offense. There was some talk like, well, shouldn't he get some reps, build that chemistry a little bit. But, even toward the season, Drew Petzing, the offensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon, you could tell they had high expectations for him. And, it wasn't there. I think he had 1 catch for 3 yards, if I'm not mistaken, 4 targets his opener against Buffalo. He didn't look like he was getting much he wasn't getting much separation. I thought he looked a little indecisive. I don't want to say rattled, but just maybe a little overwhelmed to start the season. And it was to the point where people were starting to question, like, is this going to be the guy that everyone thought he was going to be? He was, from his targets, I think even now he's had 50 targets, 26 receptions, which is not a great percentage. And the reason why, I think even at The Athletic, we did, a survey of writers, like who's the team most likely to surprise, and the Cardinals had the most votes, and it was all because of Marvin Harrison. They finished last year okay when Kyler came back from the injury, but what they really needed was a number 1 receiver, a guy who could make defensive coordinators just like, stop and think like, okay, we have to make some decisions. We have to game plan against this guy, because that's not what they had last year. And Marvin was going to fill that role. And, for most of the season, he still has not been that guy. He's had 1 good quarter, again, where he had 4 catches for 130 yards earlier in the season. And then finally this past season, he and Kyler seem to be on the same page. And that's given some optimism that, okay, he's figured some things out.
The one thing I've been, I think, struggling to figure out the most this week looking at the Cardinals is just how good this defense actually is. Yesterday, Shane Waldron, the Bears OC, was talking about how it's pretty exotic. It's probably, he called this scheme unique. The way they move around the linebackers, obviously having a player like Budda Baker on the back end, you can do a lot of different things that, most teams don't have a Budda Baker. And then let's kind of looking at the results. Like, it seems like there's been some good weeks, there's been some bad weeks. How do you stack up this defense? Because to me, like, we know the Bears defense is probably going to play well on Sunday. What I can't figure out is how much the Bears and their struggles on offense are going to be able to exploit this defense of the Cardinals.
Yeah, it's not very good. I'll give them credit. Last week against Miami, they were terrible on 3rd down. They have been for most of the year. That's not a strong suit. But, in the 4th quarter, when they needed the ball, they found a way to get a stop finally on 3rd and 9, get the ball back to Kyler. It's a talent. It's a defense that doesn't have a lot of talent outside of Budda Baker. They've struggled tremendously with impacting the passer. That's something that, is going to be really interesting to see, is if Monty Ossenfort makes some sort of deal to bring in a pass rusher at the trade deadline. They've had injuries. Their defensive line is banged up. They play hard. That's probably their one thing. Budda Baker has had, I think, maybe one of his best seasons. Sometimes in the press box, if you just are a fan, or if you're watching on television, if you just watch Budda Baker and how he attacks every play, it's really amazing. He's in the last year of his contract, so obviously he has reason to play that way, but he's pretty much that way all the time. But he's had a great season this year. But for the most part, it's a defense that just has to hold on, just kind of has to hold on, keep the game together. And then when it has an opportunity to get off the field, find a way to do it, because they're not going to they're not going to completely shut anybody down. They're just not built that way. Just not enough star power.
I feel like this is a week where you're going to hear a lot of Bears fans. Like, I know there's a lot of full flights leaving Chicago later today, tomorrow. Like, my colleague here is hosting a golf outing.
Yeah, we're playing
out there.
What's
tomorrow.
it called? Raven Club, I think it is, tomorrow morning. I got like a not 8. Something I gotta look up my tee time. Yeah, it's a Chicago invasion this weekend.
Yes.
Well, the weather should be great. Finally, we've had a miserable summer. I think we had over 100 straight days of 100-degree days, and then you got down to in the 70s, and everyone, like a couple of weeks ago, everyone was like, "Great, fall's finally here." And then the next week it was right back up in the high 90s. So, but it's been great the last 2 days. Yeah, the fans that's always interesting at State Farm Stadium, because, Arizona is such a weird market. So on most Sundays, you have, whether it's, no matter who's the opponent, you have a pretty significant opposing fan base. And I imagine, it was that way with Detroit earlier this year. I imagine Bears fans in this area, it's that way when the Cubs play at Chase Field, the Diamondbacks. I imagine there's going to be a very, very good Bears following here in the stadium this weekend.
I know Kevin Fishbane. Sorry, you got to follow up?
Well, I just want to do a check-in on like the market right now in Arizona. I mean, the Coyotes left. I don't know how devastating. I mean, I know it was devastating to the hockey fans that were there, but I don't know how much that it like affected the market or anything. Just what's it like there right now in Arizona, which has always kind of been a transplant town, and obviously, there always is a Chicago flavor there.
Yeah, the Coyotes thing was interesting. You're right; they had some hardcore fans, but I think I've lived here a little over 20 years, and 15 of that has the Coyote, the hockey town. I mean, the hockey franchise was always like, are they staying? Are they coming? It was just something that hung in the air forever. Still an unfortunate ending. Basketball season has started. This has always been an NBA town. The Suns are the original Phoenix Pro franchise. So, with Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal and Devin Booker and, a new coach, an owner who's spending boatloads of money, there's always an excitement when the Suns have potential, and we're still in that window right now. So right now people are excited about that. But, the Cardinals fans here have been beaten down over the years. I remember when I first moved here, I brought my brother out. I'm like, come on out, we'll go see a Cardinals game. And it's the first one. They played at Sun Devil Stadium then, where Arizona State plays. So, he's from Indiana, used to seeing Colts games. So the day we went to go see, Arizona, he got in, we got a late start, and we're like, well, we're going to miss the start of the game. But, so we were expecting to be delayed by traffic, get into the stadium. We just parked, walked right in, within like 5 minutes. It was just the weirdest vibe going to watch the Cardinals play in the desert heat. It was still like 100 degrees, in a half empty stadium. It was very strange. But the Cardinals now, given like I said, the excitement now, they won 2 in a row. People are thinking maybe they can contend. The excitement has definitely jumped here in the last 5 or 6 days. People are starting to get a little excited.
I know Kevin Fishbane bothered you for a pick this week. You want to take us through the way you think this one's going to play out? Yeah,
I picked the Cardinals. I think 24-20. I think that's what I sent him. I don't feel great about it. It's been an inconsistent team, but I'm going to ride their momentum with them. I think they have some confidence, some resilience. I like the way Kyler Murray's playing, and we haven't talked about James Conner, but their running back is kind of the heart of the offense. Buda Baker is the heart of the defense. James Conner is the heart of the offense, and he's just a running back that doesn't quit. Last week, Miami shut him down. They set up to shut him down, and he was a non-factor all the way up until that final quarter, that final drive, and then he just just carried 4 or 5 defenders when they needed a first down. And I think you'll see a lot of him to start. I'm encouraged by Marvin Harrison Jr. and what he did last week. So I want to see it. I think if they were smart, they would try to get him involved right away, just to kind of keep that going. But I'm gonna ride with them for one more week, and it might cost me, but that's the way I'm leaning.
I got one more question for you. What does it take for the roof to be open there? Because 71 and sunny, but I feel like the roof's never open there. But it feels like a day where it should be open. Do they? I mean, is there any chance that that'll actually be the case?
Yeah, it was open the last home game.
Okay.
I would assume with the temperature, it should be open this week. But that's a constant point of contention here. The Diamondbacks, the baseball stadium's the same way, and yeah, in the summer it's different. But there are some nights where it's nice, and you're like, why isn't the roof open? But it's a different, as it is with most retractable roof venues, it's a different experience when the roof is open as opposed to when it's closed. So it should be open. I hope it is. It's not a bad place to watch a football game when the roof's open for sure.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much. We'll see you down there. Should be a fun weekend in Arizona. Doug Haller from The Athletic. Appreciate your time.
Hey, I appreciate you having me.
Great stuff from Doug. Looking forward to seeing him out there in Arizona. But Adam, you know what time it is?
It is time for 3 big questions.
3 big questions. Number 1, Adam Hoge. If Tyreek Stevenson doesn't start but still plays the majority of the snaps, was a strong enough message sent to him by the Bears and coach Matt Eberflus?
I'm going to say yes. Because, this is kind of an interesting conversation sometimes. Well, if a talented guy can get away with more than a less talented guy, it's easier to bench somebody that doesn't play a whole lot or whatever. Like, there's some truth to that. But you know why there's some truth to that? It's because when you still make 2 touchdown saving tackles and break up a pass in the end zone in the same game, that earns you some equity too. Now, from the mental side of it, he does need to stay more focused. I actually agree with something the Flu said this week on this topic when it came to consequences, when it came to accountability. It was like, well, the worst consequence of all this is that we lost the game. And he goes home that night and sits with it all week, knowing he's a huge reason why they lost that game. Now, do I think that's enough? No, I do actually think there needs to be a tangible thing where it's like, no, when shit like this happens, when you're going to lose your focus, and we have this whole hits principle thing, and you need to be situationally smart, which is the one thing that they continue to struggle with, in my opinion, when it comes to hits. There needs to be a consequence, even if it's ceremonial, quite frankly. You don't start this week. That goes in your box score for the rest of your career that you didn't start this game in Arizona, and this is why. But I would honestly probably still play him the majority of the snaps because the guy did play pretty decent the rest of that game and made some big plays. So to me, it is enough. It is a strong enough message. It does send a message to the rest of that locker room. But it also sends a message that, we're not going to go overboard with it if you're also helping the team on the field with how you're playing.
I think you put it great there, especially in terms of like the box score and the symbolism of it. Sometimes a symbolic gesture like this is enough. And I know the Bears are high in Terrell Smith. I get that. They rotated with him with Stevenson last week in Washington, and they have in the past in a way to challenge Stevenson. But he's still a backup for a lot of reasons. Tyreek Stevenson is still a second-round pick. He's still your starter. He was the NFC Defensive Player of the Month in Week 1 because of his pick 6. Let's not forget that. The Bears still very much need Tyreek Stevenson. He's one of their better players. That's why their secondary is so strong. The suggestion that they should cut him and move on is one of the most ridiculous things that I've heard since Washington. That is an emotional reaction. The Bears need Tyreek Stevenson to continue to win football games this year and beyond.
Can I give you a little a minor question here, like a 1B question?
What do you got?
Would it completely shock you if the inactives came out Sunday and he was on the list?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think that would shock his teammates too, because I think they know how good Tyreek Stevenson can be. And there was a lot of messages from Jalen Johnson, Kevin Byard about needing to build up Tyreek, how he's a young player going through some crap right now, and their job as teammates is to build him up, encourage him because they're going to need him. So I think that would shock not only us but the locker room as well.
Because speaking of emotional reactions, I'm not gonna lie, that was my emotional reaction live on our CHGO post game on Sunday when I saw that video. I was like, he needs to be inactive next week. I think as the dust is settled and you kind of hear the reaction from some of the players and maybe the impact that might have on the locker room and things, I don't know that that's necessarily the best move. I don't think it's the likely thing that's going to happen. I don't know that it would completely shock me, though, if it happened. I brought up in the moment, too, on Sunday how Lovie Smith benched Tim Jennings at the end of the season. I'm forgetting the years now. What was it 2011 going into 2012, whatever it was? And then, but that was more of like a big picture, like motivational ploy. And I think it had a lot to do with his play on the field too, which I think is a big difference. He came back and was a Pro Bowler the next year. You know what I mean? This is more not necessarily disciplinary because it's not like, he did anything horrible off the field. We're just talking about a lapse of judgment on the field. We're talking about a lapse of focus. That matters too, the mental side of it. But I don't know that that this is like you need to play better or you're not going to play type of thing. It's more of like a consequence to a bad moment. So I think not. I think now that I think about it, I'm like not having him not start and maybe not play as much as he normally would. Maybe if Terrell Smith comes out and plays well in the first series, you keep Terrell Smith in, and you kind of go from there. That's enough of a consequence to what happened Sunday.
I think the Bears stand to benefit more from providing him with the eventual opportunity to redeem himself.
Yeah.
As opposed to completely benching him in this example.
Also, God forbid one of your two outside corners gets hurt
and it's
he's inactive and you lose the game because all of a sudden Marvin Harrison Jr. is going off and you can't cover him.
You're missing Kyler Gordon. You're missing Jaquan Brisker. You need Tyreek Stevenson. All right, number 2, your GM Ryan Poles, Adam Hoge. Yes or no, and then why? The best decision.
I'm not.
Okay. You're not? You don't want to do this one?
No, I thought you were asking me a question. Your GM, Ryan Poles, yes or no? Why?
Okay. Smart Alec.
My answer is no because I'm Adam Hoge.
Okay, Adam Hoge. Your GM, Adam Hoge, smart ass.
I am a smart ass, yes.
Yes or no, and why? The best decision is to retain your 2 second-round picks for the NFL draft in 2025 and not trade one of them by next Tuesday's deadline.
Do I have to pick between yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to say yes. The best decision is to keep your draft picks. Now, the more nuanced answer would be it depends on who we're talking about here. It depends on the position that we're talking about.
I don't think there's a list of players worth that second-round pick, at least right now.
That's why I'm going yes as my absolute answer, having to pick between these two, because I have not been presented with a guy that I would be like, okay. Now, there is one Myles Garrett for a second-round pick is interesting to me. By the way, I don't know if that was legit. Did you see the screenshot going around Twitter this morning about Mike Tannenbaum?
Oh, I was about to bring that
Was that real?
I'm trying to remember it. I'm literally was Googling it.
I think it was two first-round picks.
I thought it was 3 first-round picks, a second-round pick, and Jahmyr Gibbs.
And then the graphic says, who says no? Literally every human being on the planet says no.
I believe Ryan Clark left the set, and that was his answer. No, well, this is just stupid.
Like, even the Cleveland Browns, who made the worst trade in NFL history, would be like, nah, man, we're taking advantage of you. We can't do that. That would be... Even they would say no, just out of, respect. I don't know what it would take to get Myles Garrett. That one's intriguing, but I think for the most part, I don't I don't see a guy like, is Myles Garrett the difference between winning the Super Bowl this year? You know what I mean? And so I'd rather keep those picks. You are gonna have 3 picks between, somewhere between 17, 18, like late teens, 20s into the 60s. Like you have 3 picks in a core part of the draft where you can get 3 starters there. And Ryan Poles has done a pretty good job of doing that. So I wouldn't be in a hurry to trade one of those picks this year.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Mike Tannenbaum's trade proposal. Lions receive Myles Garrett. Browns receive 3 first-round picks, a second-round pick, and Jahmyr Gibbs.
No.
Yeah. One more. Give me one more, Mike Lennon.
No.
No.
Probably not.
Unbelievable.
I like the idea of retaining your first. You're going to have the first pick of the second round. Use it on a lineman or the pass rusher, the second best pass rusher who happens to be there. Then you have some talent, some starters on rookie deals, which is what you need. You have a lot of big money contracts on your books in 2025. You need rookie deals to offset those.
Yeah. It depends on the situation. Like we find out they traded a second round pick, I'll be like, all right, who was it for? But I wouldn't. This is not a time where the Bears need to be going all in.
All right, number 3, rapid fire, Halloween edition. Happy Halloween, everybody. Are you ready, Adam Hoge?
Yes.
Snickers or Kit Kats?
Snickers.
Skittles or Starburst?
Skittles.
Monster Mash or Thriller?
Thriller.
Vampire movie, Lost Boys or Twilight?
I don't think I've seen Lost Boys.
Oh, boo, shame on you.
I have to go Twilight out of default.
Watch Lost Boys. You'll like
Okay.
an older movie from the 90s. No, not ringing a bell. Okay. Ghostbuster, Egon Spengler or Peter Venkman?
Peter Venkman.
Good choice.
Okay. That was good.
It's fun.
Did you dress up yesterday?
I did not. Did you?
Boo. Yeah, I did one of my better last minute costumes ever. I had a surprisingly nice Mighty Ducks jersey from the original Mighty Ducks. Went Adam Banks because it was the one that was available. Number 99.
But you just had it?
No, I had it. I like Amazoned it. And it showed up literally like 30 minutes before we had to go out. And then, I just threw on some sweatpants, like shorts over that to make it look like hockey pants, rolled up some socks. And then I have a Minnesota North Stars hat I actually have. So I went with the Mighty Ducks theme because those kids wore all the North Stars stuff in the first movie. It ended up being a great costume.
My best impromptu Halloween costume ever was throwing on a black suit, a black tie, a white shirt, sunglasses, and a hat.
Blues Brothers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Worked out. Everybody loved it. I loved it. So that's like my go-to if I have to dress up. I haven't dressed up in a long time for Halloween, at least in that regard. That's my go-to.
You ever do the couples costume?
We have never really done a couples costume.
Okay. I don't know this one I should bring to air, but it's unfair to the people. Unfair to the people. Yeah, I know. Whatever. This was a long time ago. So, and I don't think they were true rumors. But back when I was an idiot college student and I was first dating Krista, who's my wife now, there was rumors about Brett Bielema and a certain sideline reporter.
Oh, gee.
And that's why I was like, I don't know if I should mention the names involved. Yeah, I don't think they were true, but that was our Halloween costume.
That was your costume.
And it was one of those things where like walking around Madison. Madison was a huge Halloween town, right? And it was one of those costumes that like you walked around Madison, and everybody got it.
Yeah.
It was
Probably one of
great.
those like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, congratulating you a little bit on your wonderful costume.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was solid.
Captured
And,
the moment.
well, I'm not going to say that, but yeah. I don't know if I could pull off Brett Bielema these days. Back then, it worked.
Now?
I still love Brett Bielema as a coach.
He's doing a good job.
So, yeah, I mean, does he go back to his alma mater when Iowa fires Kirk Ferentz? leave Illinois. Okay, that's enough rumors.
Over-unders. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
I got a lot of these about the Hail Mary, and I went with what I thought was a good number. So this is from the Bears, 1058. This is from Chris. This is from Hungarian Falcon. Over under the number of times the Hail Mary is shown, 2.5. I think you get 2. You get 1 in the pregame, build up a little bit, like as they're talking, and then you get 1 during the game.
Yeah, and even then, I think if it's shown a second time, it would only be like end of half or end of game situation where someone might be actually attempting a Hail Mary. So I'm going to take an under.
Yeah, same here. From Jim Hansen, photos showing of Flus and Gannon together in Indy, 1.5. I'm going under with just 1, if that.
Yeah, 1. They'll show it, though. Under.
California King, the word accountability mentioned on the broadcast, 3.5. You're going to get it because of, it's a good one, because of Tyreek Stevenson, but under the 3.5.
Yeah, under, but I like that number. That 3.5 is good.
From a man's, excuse me, a man's 1420. Amon's 1420. Over under 1.5. Number of series Tyreek Stevenson is benched to start the game.
Ooh, another good number, 1.5. I'm gonna say it's 1. I think that's the ceremonial. But again, I'm like, what if Terrell Smith picks off Kyler Murray on the first series? Like, you can't take him out.
No. So I'm actually going to say 2.
Okay.
Because I think maybe one of those possessions are short for the Cardinals. Maybe it's a number of snaps that Matt Eberflus has in mind. Like he's going to miss the first 10 snaps or something like that. I don't know. So I'm going to say over 2.
Okay. I'll take the under.
From Cody, over under half. Caleb and Kyler both playing at Oklahoma for Lincoln Riley. I'm guessing mentions of that. Over.
Yeah. They both played for Cliff Kingsbury too. But yeah, I'll probably say over on that. That's another. These are good this week.
Over, yes. This is from Ryan. Over under times they have to get 1 yard, but do something other than just hand it to Roshan Johnson with Kramer at fullback. Let me read that again. Over under the amount of times they have to get 1 yard, but do something other than just hand it to Roshan Johnson with Doug Kramer at fullback, 1.5.
I'll take the under.
You have an overcorrection coming your way.
I don't hate Kramer at fullback though. Like that's the thing. It's worked. I just don't want him getting the ball when the game's on the line. This is a hot take. I don't have a problem if they try to hand it to him again. But it better be when they're winning by at least 2 possessions.
Okay.
I think I saw a stat yesterday. It was like Roshan Johnson has scored a touchdown on 100% of his carries inside the 5 or something.
Seems like a good stat.
I think he's 4 for 4.
I'm going to go over because I feel like you'll get certain different personnel packages where Mercedes Lewis comes on the field instead of Doug Kramer. You may get the quick screen, the DJ Moore again. You'll get some different things. So 2 or 3 over. From Joshua, graphics comparing Marvin Harrison Jr. and Roma Dunze stats. Half.
Yeah, there'll be 1.
There'll be 1 over. From Bear Butler, over, under, and Komet targets, 8.5. Flus and Waldron always overcompensate the next game when it's pointed out they failed in one area. Komet got 1 target in Washington, so he's setting it at 8.5. I think it's a good number.
Yeah. Ooh. By the way, this goes back to last year too. This is not just a Waldron thing. Like Komet has these games where he's heavily involved in the passing game.
It's also a Matt Nagy thing too.
Yeah, that's a lot. I'm going to take the under.
Yeah, you'll get 5 or 6 catches.
It's certainly possible though, because he does have these weeks where all of a sudden it's like 12 targets, 10 catches. Okay.
And last but not least, from David, Adam Jahns attended CHGO events.
Now, is this Sunday or ever?
This weekend, I imagine.
I'm gonna give you. I'm gonna say over. I think you might actually show up to Salt, mainly because it's within footsteps of the stadium.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It is. It'd almost be wrong for me not to make an appearance.
Now, are you parking or are you Ubering?
I believe we're Ubering.
Okay, then I'm taking the over. That's honestly the thing, because if you were driving, and I don't know where the parking lot is these days, so if it was like on the wrong side of the stadium, there's no chance you would come.
I usually base my decisions on that a lot.
Yeah.
Convenience.
I will say that, I mean, anybody who's stayed in that Westgate area, I mean, the last time I covered a preseason game there, Bears played the Cardinals in the preseason, I stayed at the Renaissance. That's right there, which is a great hotel.
Oh, it's an awesome hotel.
You look out the window, and the stadium's like, it looks like you can almost touch it. And then because it was August, it's like 110 degrees outside. And all of a sudden, that walk from the hotel to the stadium that I felt like I could touch from my hotel room felt like it was a mile and a half.
You're drenched in sweat.
And that was when I was like, anybody who always is like, the desert heat, it's just a dry heat, it's not as bad. I'm like, that is bullshit. Because it was 110 degrees and it was hot.
It's still effing hot.
Yeah, if you're Ubering, you're going to show up. I'll give you one.
There.
I'll give you
I'll
one.
be there. I'm coming for the tacos.
It's on the record now.
No, now I really got to show.
Yeah. All right. Should we get to predictions?
Let's do it.
We got Bears at Cardinals. Another late afternoon game. This one's not in that exclusive window. It's a 3:05 Chicago start. CBS. Cardinals are 1.5 point favorite. Who you got?
I'm looking for the pick that I sent Kevin Fishbane to make sure I have the score in order. But let me read you just how bad. We talked about this with Doug for a little bit, but just how bad the Arizona defense is. So entering this week, Arizona's defense ranks 27th in opposing quarterback passer rating, 26th in passing yards allowed, 26th in rushing yards allowed, 24th in scoring defense, and 32nd in third down percentage. It's a bad defense. Caleb Williams should be good against them. So I'm going Bears 27-20. I think you can count on defense traveling for the Bears. Again, won't always look pretty, but they'll keep the Cardinals out of the end zone for the most part. And I think Caleb Williams in the offense, based on these stats and based off what Doug just told us, they should move the ball. They should have some success. So 27-20 Bears.
Yeah, I almost feel the same way about this game as I did last week, because it's like this, like the Jags game. Well, not like the Jags game, because the Bears didn't get off to a fast start in that one too. But if the Bears can play with a lead, which they eventually did in that Jaguars game by the second quarter, it feels like a game the Bears can win comfortably. The problem is they're not really showing any signs of being able to do that. They score a touchdown in the first quarter. It just feels like, Jahns, until they show that they can do that, this is just going to be another game where they're playing from behind. They're fortunate they're playing a defense that's not as good. I think the one thing that does really go in the Bears' favor here is when they've played teams that don't get after the quarterback that well. You know, with the shuffle, this is a good opponent to have this week. With the shuffling on the O-line, Larry Borom probably going to have to play left tackle. You know, it's nice to play a team that's towards the bottom of the league in sacks and pressures. And you heard it from Doug. They don't get after the quarterback that well. That should help Caleb. That should help the offensive line. I think that's ultimately why the Bears are able to pull this out. The quarterback has shown he can play well in the fourth quarter, make the plays that need to be made to win the game. I think that's kind of how this game goes. I got the Bears winning 19-17.
19-17.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd love to say that it's 29-17, but they got to prove it, man. And if they can't this week,
See, I feel like they did prove it for couple weeks in a row, and then you're reminded that it could still get kind of ugly for a rookie quarterback in this offense in Washington.
Yeah. All right.
Bold predictions.
Bold predictions. I am going to say, because the one thing that did not happen last week is the Bears did not really take the ball away. And that, I think, just the law of averages with the way this team rallies to the football. Ooh, I'll give you the specific one. Here's where the bold prediction. Where I make it bold. Because Richard Hightower brought this up in his press conference yesterday. The Bears have forced a fumble on special teams the last 2 weeks. The ball just didn't bounce their way. This week, they get the takeaway on special teams.
Okay. I'm going to have Roma Dunze significantly outgaining and outproducing Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't know why this is it feels bold because you have no idea what you're going to get from the Bears receivers every week. Like who's going to be the leading receiver, who's going, like you just don't know what to expect. But this week with the 2 rookies on the field, I feel like you have a significantly productive game from Roma Dunze, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is kept in check. So I don't know if you need numbers. Maybe Rome flirts with 125 and a touchdown, while Marvin Harrison Jr. is, I don't know, around the 60s or 70s in receiving yards.
All right. I like it. Let's move on to the rest of the NFL games that we will be picking before we say goodbye going into the weekend.
Perfect.
Yeah. Fox, noon. Next week's opponent, the New England Patriots, go to the Tennessee Titans, who were double-digit underdogs last week in Detroit, lost by 500 points, and are now favored against the Pats. The Titans are a 3.5-point home favorite.
Just 2 bad teams. I think Will Levis is coming back.
Yeah.
Is
The
Drake
Patriots
May okay?
won on Sunday.
Yeah, they did. I don't know. I put this game on here just because the Bears are playing the Patriots next. Patriots lose but cover.
Yeah. I don't know why. I think the Titans win. I just don't think the Patriots are that good. Yeah. Ugh. This game sucks. Jesus.
Point is, those are some numbers.
All right, a much better game. Fox 325. This is your late afternoon game of the week. Detroit Lions going to Green Bay. Lions are playing really good football right now. Packers playing pretty well too. The Packers are 3.5-point home dogs, which kind of shows you what the public view is of this division at the same time right now. For the Lions are the clear favorite if they're going to be 3.5-point favorites on the road in Green Bay.
Do you ever have the sense that, or ever think this, that Jordan Love is just going to be a quarterback who is just continuously dealing with various injuries?
Well, he might this season. I mean, the way it's been going. But yeah,
It feels that way.
the Jordan Love. I mean, that's a discussion
Brett
for
Favre always dealt with injuries, and he never stopped playing and always kept winning.
Yeah, he had the Iron Man streak.
Not to compare the two, but they are both Green Bay Packers quarterbacks.
Rodgers dealt with his fair share of stuff too early on in his career. I'm actually reading that book right now. I'm going to go with the Lions in this game. I don't like that this is in Green Bay, but I like how the Lions are playing. I think they're rolling. It's a very interesting matchup, though, when you look at how good the Lions have been so good on offense. The Packers, with hiring Jeff Hafley, one of the best hires of the offseason. They've been taking the ball away. They've been getting after the quarterback. They've been playing really well on that side of the ball. How that matchup goes is going to be really fun to watch.
I'm going to take the Lions, too. They're going to show everyone that they don't need Myles Garrett, and they should retain their 3 first-round picks.
That's unbelievable. Okay.
I didn't hear all of it. I heard a lot about most of it, but what I did hear, I did not hear any of that.
That is a classic clip that you have not played in a long time. Can I hear that again? Because the whole comment there is just ridiculous.
It's it won Boris and Bernstein quote of the year. It's one of the best of all time.
I didn't hear all of it. I heard a lot about most of it, but what I did hear, I did not hear any of that.
It's great. Absolutely great.
Oh my. Did you hear, not to get derailed here, did you hear what Lance Briggs said this week about the game in Minnesota where they kicked the field goal on second down?
No. Please do tell.
It's just so he revealed that, because I hadn't heard this part of the story before. He said that Robbie Gould told Mark Trestman that his range was 42 yards. And they still tried it from 47 on second down. And then he came in the meeting the next day and doubled down on the decision, saying he saw another team do it the week before. He thought it was the right call. He wasn't like, I'm sorry, guys, I let you down. And that was the beginning of the end for Mark Trestman, because that was still year one.
There's still year one. Didn't Robbie Gould celebrate the birth of a child like just 12 hours prior to that? And
Yeah,
flew in late?
he flew to the game that morning. He got on a commercial flight, I believe. Maybe it was private, but he flew there the morning of the game, and it was still a noon game, if I remember right. It was also the last game in the Metrodome.
Was it really?
At least for the Bears. It was the last time we were in the Metrodome.
I remember being on the field during pregame warm-up because it's one of the few fields you could still do that as a print reporter.
Yeah, I was weirdly, that was weirdly sort of emotional for me, because with my family ties and how many summers I'd spent in Minnesota, like I can't tell you the amount of baseball games I went to in the Metrodome. Not a lot of football games, some Badger games there. But yeah, it was like I'm just going back to what you're talking about. I remember standing there pregame, just being like, "Oh, this is weird that this building is going to be gone." So the old milk jug in the right field corner, good stuff. It was like a weirdly nostalgic, horrible stadium.
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad for football because it didn't go that high up, and it was extremely loud. For
Very
baseball, it was a ridiculous configuration and always dead quiet.
And it was ugly.
Except for when they, of course, went to the World Series and played in playoff games, then it would get really loud. But like a regular season game in July.
Didn't they have like plastic walls in the outfield?
Yes. Well, yeah, the Kirby Puckett years, there was glass like that guarded the fans. Yeah, it was weird. It was like, is this a hockey game? What's happening? What's going on? So, all right, we should
Anyway, Fox 325, Rams and Seahawks.
Yeah.
Seahawks 1.5 point home dog.
Yeah, this seems a little almost surprising that the Seahawks would be favored here, but they haven't been playing that well. I like the Rams, although Puka got hurt yesterday.
No, the Seahawks are the home dog. Seahawks are getting 1.5.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I would have thought Seahawks would be favored at home.
Oh,
here.
okay.
But the Rams had that great win over the Vikings last week. I just saw that Puka got hurt yesterday, so I don't know what the status is of that, but I'm going to go with the Rams here.
Okay. I agree. I thought Puka was fine. Now he's hurt again. There was a player.
Yeah, well, I think he left practice yesterday.
Not good.
Is what happened.
Good job by Equinemius St. John. He's going to get the block.
NBC 7:20 p.m. Colts, speaking of Minnesota, go to their new stadium, much better stadium, US Bank Stadium, to play the Vikings. The Vikings are 5-point favorite.
Joe Flacco, now the starting quarterback for the Colts. How about that storyline unfolding in Indianapolis?
Yeah.
At the same time, I could have probably told you it was coming. Let's not draft a quarterback who barely played in college. Chris Ballard should know better.
Yeah, it might not have been Chris Ballard. It might have been the guy named Jim Irsay.
Probably doesn't know better.
Because Chris Ballard historically likes these veterans. Like, that's why I'm not surprised they went to Flacco. You know, he brought in Phillip Rivers. He brought in Matt Ryan.
Carson Wentz.
I'm going to ride here with the quarterback change boost for a week.
Ooh.
And
To cover or to
also,
win?
what's that?
Just to cover?
I think just to cover. It wouldn't shock me if they win. I think the Vikings are starting to come down to earth a little bit here. I just find it hard to believe that the Sam Darnold thing is sustainable. Eventually, I feel like the turnovers are going to come. I feel like this is a game where that might start to happen. I don't love the Colts, but this just feels like 5's too many points with the quarterback change here. So I am going to take Indianapolis, and
You better lock it up. You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
Joe Flacco. Okay.
hey, man, maybe it's just memories of Cleveland last year.
Well, like,
Where's our friend Patrick Finley?
again, they came up a lot because of what happened in Washington.
Yeah. Did you pick this game?
I did not. Give me the Vikings to win by a touchdown.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Anyway, who cares?
All right. Monday night. Bucks. I feel like the Bucks play. It feels like the Bucks play on Monday night every week.
It's like they have Tom Brady again.
Like, what's going on? Anyway, they're going to Kansas City, and the Chiefs are getting 9.
Well, that's what happens when you lose your two best receivers to
I'm sorry, the
injuries.
Chiefs are giving 9. I
Giving 9,
apologize.
yes. Yeah. I feel like the Chiefs are a strange undefeated team, are they not? Like, they're not exactly blowing teams out of the water. They look pretty ugly at times.
But
9
they're
points.
undefeated. It's quite
Yes.
scary, actually.
Yes. Yeah. It feels like a lot of points. I'm going to give the Buccaneers, I'm going to take the Buccaneers, but the Chiefs are still going to win by 7 or 8 points. But that's why the Buccaneers cover.
Yeah, it's a tough one. 9 seems like a lot. The injuries on the Bucks offense, though. I'm probably gonna stay away from this in real life, but I'm gonna take the Chiefs for the purpose of this podcast to cover. That's the Chiefs OC. All right, that's gonna do it for the podcast.
Safe travels to Arizona. Have fun on the there was one more from Dave. Over under an Adam Hoge's golf score, plus or minus. Sorry, where was it? 91.5.
Oh, it's a respectable over under. I appreciate it. I thought that was gonna come in at like a 102 or something, and I was gonna get pissed and say under.
Now you're going over.
91.5 is a great number. I'm going to take the over, though, because I have not played golf since the end of August. So I don't know that I haven't played desert golf in probably 5 years.
I think a lot of these, like 100.5 is a good number. So I'm always battling against myself when I golf.
Yeah.
And whether or not I can break 100. I flirted with 90 a few times in my life. 85, I think, once. 100, I think, is a fair number for someone who has not golfed in a while.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be rusty. I am going to set my score at 97.
Okay. So over.
Yeah. But I'll share it. We'll let you know. One guy I know who will share it, and it'll be very questionable. And if it's accurate, will be Greg Braggs Jr.
I got a friend like this. The guy who always just takes the extra swing, like, oh, let me just get one more, or like there's a practice swing with a real ball involved before hitting the real ball, and if that practice swing is a good hit, he's gonna play that one as opposed to his original live.
So that was Greg like a year ago. We played in Indy when the Bears practiced the Colts, and like he was trying to claim all summer that he was breaking 100, and like he was brand new to golf too. Like, and every time we play with him, he'd shoot like 110. Like, there's no way you're playing in the 90s every time you don't play with us. Like, there's no evidence that shows that.
It works if you don't count 20 of the swings.
And then I will say, he got better this year. And he actually beat me
Oh no.
on my own course back in August. Yeah. And that's why I haven't played golf anymore. I retired.
Yes, I would too.
It was that moment.
I quit.
All right, we need to get out of here. Follow us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns, at Hogan Jahns is our show account. HoganJahns.com is where you can get all the merch. You can read Johnsy in The Athletic, theathletic.com/Hogan Jahns. You can read me at allchgo.com. Diehards can get my newsletter on Friday mornings, including today's. You can also read that. If you're just looking to read it, sign up right now. You can just go to allchgo.com as well and find it. Should be a fun weekend in Arizona. We will recap it for you all on Monday morning. And don't forget about the non-time change there, Johnsy.
Very confusing.
It's confusing that we don't have to worry about it, but we also don't gain an hour's sleep like we should if we were back home. Does that mean we lost a year off or an hour off our life this year? I don't know. Someone's going to have to check in on that.
Yeah, what does that mean when we come home? Do we still gain that hour?
Well, we do in the sense that we're not going to have a 2-hour time change. We're going to have a 1 hour.
2 hours? Yeah. Anyway, we'll see you out there.
Do you want me to blow your mind with a fact?
What do you got?
Do you know that there's a part of Florida and a part of Oregon that are only have an hour time difference?
Well, I imagine the furthest west part of Florida is in the central time zone, is it? But does time not change in that part of Florida?
Correct. There is a part of the Florida Panhandle that's central time. And then there is a small portion of Oregon that's mountain time.
Huh.
Blows your mind.
Yes.
I just blew your mind.
The more you know.
The more you know. All right. Hopefully you learned some things in this podcast too and know a little bit more. We appreciate you being here. We are going to say goodbye now, and we will talk to you Monday. Are the Bears 4-4 or 5-3? Talk to you then.
See ya.